Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we ask Nintendo for permission to play Street Fighter 2. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I always am, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We are going to be talking about the news from the week, including even more Pokemon news. And then on Thursday, we are going to be talking about spooky levels with our special guest, Emily Rose Jacobson. But in the meantime, Mark, how are you?
I'm doing so good, and man, we are really getting a lot of Pokemon news.
It's like it doesn't stop. I mean, I guess there are a lot of these things, right?
Pokemon?
Yeah.
Yeah. About 1,000 last I checked.
Yeah, and every day we learn a little bit more. And
about ourselves.
Yes, and every day we see a new part of ourselves. And one day we will understand the whole thing. Not ourselves, but Pokemon.
Sword and Shield. Presumably. Do you think that Nintendo or the Game Freak, the Pokemon Company, some amalgamation of the three, do you think that they choose which version of the game they think is going to be more popular,
okay,
and name and have it be first in the names? Or do you think that by virtue of being first, it is the most
more
popular?
That is very interesting. I've never seen any real breakdown of because there must be, right? There must be one version of the game of every generation that ends up being the more popular one.
I think it's always whichever one is named first.
But
and
is
by
that
popular,
true?
by sales wise,
Yeah.
I think I would be willing to bet money, not a significant amount of money.
We don't have that.
But some money that is true. The majority of the time, the vast majority of the time.
Well, which do you think is more popular? Sonic Forces or the Sonic Forces borrowing program?
I think the answer undoubtedly is the borrowing program.
Because the borrowing program is a huge success. If you would like to be a part of it, all you have to do is email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com and give us a physical mailing address where I can send you my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch. You can play it for as long as you like. You can not play it for as long as you like, and then you send it back. It costs you nothing. You get Sonic Forces in your possession for as long as you want. And that's it. That's the entirety of the program.
While you're sending us an email,
yes,
you can send us your Super Mario Maker 2 levels.
Yes.
We love to play your Super Mario Maker 2 levels, like Casey, who sent us a level to play this week, which I checked out, and you can check out by inputting the level code that we'll include in the show notes.
Yep. Mark, I did not have an opportunity to play this level. Can you tell me what it's about?
Yeah, so it's a little bit puzzly.
Ooh.
So there's lots of different doors, and do you
have to decide which is the best door?
You kind of have to decide. You kind of have to decide which is the best door, because and I guess in a Mario Maker level, there is only one ending that you can have, right? There's not multiple paths you can go, but it's a level that feels like there are multiple paths, and that I just happened to stumble on exit. It actually was the rare level that made me want to go back and explore the areas that I didn't get to, but I know are accessible on the map, even though they don't necessarily lead me to the exit.
Yeah.
Because the way that it's set up is it feels very big, and there's lots of different areas that you can go to, but you're just trying to get keys. You're trying to get past the final boss, but there's also at least two other bosses that you encounter if you're going the wrong direction. You have to either you either die fighting them, or you get past them,
live long
grab
enough
a
to
key,
become a villain.
Exactly. Turn into them, become the host of a Mario Maker 2 level. It's like Tron, you're in the game.
Wow. That's intense.
No, but like you encounter one of those bosses, you either die fighting them or you like get past them and there's a key that pops up. I don't know, I thought it was like really clever. Sometimes in the puzzly levels, when they're not done well, it's just like, all right, there's a cajillion pipes and I don't know which one is gonna like get me to where I'm going. So it's basically just like going through pipes and repeating that endlessly, and those are never really fun. But this one I really felt like a sense of exploration, and that, oh, I tried that, it didn't work, so let me try going this other direction. And oh, there's a door over there that I didn't notice. How am I going to get to it? Like, I really like this level a lot.
That's really cool. Yeah, I think one of the things that is frequently lost in Super Mario Maker levels is that sort of like sense of exploration. Like Mario Maker is so good at providing you with like obstacle courses or like, you know, just like individual, like discrete little puzzles to solve. But the idea that you're actually exploring a space is something that gets kind of like is such a big part of what Mario is to me that doesn't really carry over to Mario Maker. So it's cool to hear that this one kind of does that.
Yeah, so I liked it a lot. If you would like me to like one of your levels a lot, you should send us your Mario Maker 2 level.
Right, and you can either email them to us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com, or you can tweet at us at NinCart Society, and we will check them out there. Here's another thing that you can do with either of those two ways of contacting us. We need to determine what the single greatest piece of Nintendo music is. And we're gonna do this whole like bracket style and pit two pieces of music against each other, but we cannot nominate any songs for this list. That's your job. You need to tell us. So email us or tweet at us and let us know what pieces of music we should include on there.
And here's the thing. We started talking about this a long time ago, but the deadline to do it is November 22nd, which at this point is precious few days away.
It's so, what is it, 3 weeks away? 3 weeks and change? That's so soon. Thank you to everyone who has contributed so far. Thank you to Tony and to at Borland Corp for contributing most recently. But to everyone who has done this so far, thank you. We could not do this without your contributions. In fact, we would refuse. It would be just a big empty bracket, and we'd go, I don't know, athletic theme, I guess. So thank you everyone for contributing, and remember, send in as many as you want. Tell us why they're great, and we will talk about it all and come to a final ruling, and it's going to be a good episode. I'm very excited about it. Okay, Mark, are you ready to get into what we've been playing this week?
Yeah, let's do it. Man, I am dying to talk about Fire Emblem Three Houses in spoiler terms. I won't. I will only say that there are so many good twists and turns in the story that I'm encountering so far, and it really makes me want to either play the other houses or just spoil myself and like learn how the other houses play out, because especially in the second half, it seems like the story is going to be pretty specific to which house you chose.
I think you and I are experiencing like very different stories because I'm playing through as the Golden Deer, Mark is playing through as the Blue Lions. So yeah, what we are experiencing, I'm at this point in the game has got to be wildly different.
I mean, last week I was experiencing like heavy loss. This week there's like joy in my heart. Man, I love this game so much.
Well, have you had any of the experiences yet where you are on the battlefield with students that you used to go to school with?
Yes, and you're fighting against them.
Yeah, it's brutal stuff, man. Let me ask you this: the War of the Eagle and the Lion. Have you revisited that?
Yes, I just did.
Amazing, right?
Yes.
The game is so, it's got so many it's all self-contained, right? So it's weird to say that it has like foresight, but it is amazing that it will plant the seeds for something in like hour 3 that it then like pays off in like hour 30 or 40.
And the second half of the game, the momentum really like picks up. Like you really feel the pace increase. And I loved the first part of the game, and so I was kind of dreading some of those elements going away, but what the game kind of like turns into, I'm also really enjoying, is just a different sort of it's just a different thing.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, it's kind of like you ate your vegetables in the first half of like getting to know the characters and like forming the relationships.
Right, which I loved the vegetable part.
I did too.
Of this game,
too.
But no, it really does pay off in surprising ways. And like characters, I like didn't really think I cared about. I feel like I have like such like a. I feel like I have such a deep connection for my dudes now.
Yeah, totally. I 100% get that.
Yeah.
So I guess you and I are a little bit broken records here because I am also continuing to play Dragon Quest XI's. And similar to your observation of like you love all your characters now, I had been sticking with sort of the first 4 characters that you get in Dragon Quest XI. And you can swap the characters out like basically at any time, just not in the middle of a fight. I am coming around to using the 3 other characters, and am just like, there are so many systems in this game and like so many different ways that you can tweak how your characters play. And like, I feel like I've gotten to the point where I understand all of it now and I can make more meaningful choices about how I'm growing them and how I'm developing them and like where I'm spending skill points. And like, I've got all of these goals for everyone. And I'm like, stupidly proud of my characters. I'm like, yeah, great. Oh, I'm so close to being able to double wield with this one. Oh man, look how much damage she's dealing. And like, it's I love it. And I think as far as the sort of like traditional JRPG, menu based combat, like this is going up there for me as like one of the finest forms of it. Like, I'm just really, really loving that game.
I also continue to play Mario Kart Tour.
Of course.
Which I am addicted to. Like, I have been logging in every day, even if I don't play a course, because I want to get like 5 little gems, or I want to get like one of those tickets. But for whatever reason, I have really taken to the gameplay. I just think that it's a lot of fun to quickly be able to play Mario Kart course. I think they've smartly adapted it for mobile in that they're just 2 laps. And it goes by really quickly. Each race is maybe like 3 minutes. I still think the monetization is insane and out of control. And if I really was trying to get through every tour or like every course available, then I don't know how you would do that without paying. But I have never done so. I've really just played, like usually 2 or 3 of the cups available in like a certain tour. And that's it. Right now, they're doing like a spooky one,
Ooh.
And it's interesting. I didn't really play the 3DS game, and so it's been kind of fun to be introduced to some of those courses. I don't know. It's just like less good Mario Kart, and it's still pretty
Mario
fun.
Kart's excellent.
Yeah.
So it is interesting that like the way the game is monetized kind of gives you an excuse to not be obsessive about it. We're just like, well, I'll just play what I can, and when it tells me I need to give it money, I'll just be like, no, I'll just stop.
It's interesting because I've never hit the point where like I needed to give it money. Because I just haven't put that much time in it. Like to what you're saying.
Well, and like you're not trying to get like other carts and racers and stuff, right?
Right. But yeah, really enjoying that. Also, this past weekend was the Tetris 99, Luigi's Mansion 3, Tetris Maximus, where if you got 100 points in Tetris 99, you could get the Luigi's Mansion 3 theme.
Tell me you did this.
I did do it. I've got to tell you, though, this is the theme I've been least excited for.
Oh, I really like this theme.
Because I felt like it was a weird fit for Tetris 99, which is such a, like generally high energy kind of like amped thing, that the Luigi's Mansion theme is kind of, it's slower, and
the music's a weird fit. The music is a weird fit.
So I ended up just like muting it and playing other music. So but I'm glad I have it.
Yeah,
like
of course.
I'm glad I collected it, but definitely not my favorite theme.
One thing that is weird and unsettling about it to me, and maybe I will find that I don't like this about Luigi's Mansion when it comes out, the texture on Luigi's hat seems weird, and I don't know what it's made out of. Like, it seems like his hat is possibly made out of like a Dickensian street urchin's pants. Like, the texture on them is so strange, and I can't really wrap my head around it.
Like, what if Luigi got his hat from a community theater version of Oliver? He was in Oliver. He was really proud of it.
Right. And he was like, "Can we put an L on it?"
He had his mom sew it on after the costume. after the show was over so he can continue to wear it.
Oh, boy. All right, well, that's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
It's another week, a lot coming out.
Yeah.
Today, October 29th, the Resident Evil Triple Pack is released. This is the physical version where you get Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 5, and Resident Evil 6.
It's a lot of Resident Evil.
I think only 4 is on the cart, and 5 and 6 you have to download from the eShop, if I'm remembering correctly. And then also on the eShop, Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6 are released.
And Mark, you and I have talked about possibly picking these up and playing through them together because they are co-op games.
Yeah, and I've played 5, but I played it on my lonesome.
Yeah.
Which was, I enjoyed it, but I think would be a much more fun playing together. And I've never played 6.
Yeah, I've never touched 6.
Which
I played through a fair amount of 5 with my buddy Pete, who we've talked about on the show before, but never finished it. So that would be fun to do. And then, yeah, it's insane to me that 6 is out there and I've just never played it.
I mean, 7 too.
Well, yeah. And that game is supposed to be good. I love that we're like, yeah, 6 is a game that's bad, but we've not played it.
For whatever reason, and maybe it's because I haven't played 7, and so I don't know the connective tissue.
Sure.
7 feels like a completely different beast than 6 does, which feels definitely like a continuation of the Resident Evil story that I know and familiar with characters I love.
Yeah.
So it does. It's a difference without a distinction.
But Mark, I am there for that difference.
Also on today, Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD is released. The Disney classic games Aladdin and the Lion King comes out. Vampire is released. Roar Groove is available for retail. Harvest Moon Mad Dash, which we played a little bit at E3.
Right, which is not to be confused with a regular Harvest Moon game. It's like a mini game collection, like a Mario Party style game.
So a lot going on. And then on Thursday, October 31st, of course, Nintendo is breaking their tradition, releasing a new game on Thursday because it is Luigi's Mansion 3 releasing on Halloween, and it just feels right.
And you can't put that out on November 1st. It is not appropriate. Though it seems like it should have come out last week, right?
Yeah, totally.
We've played this game a couple times at preview events. I'm very excited about it.
Me too.
I want to get in and do some co-op. I want to go in and bust some ghosts. I just want to be cute in a hotel that is haunted.
That's not too much to ask, Patrick.
Thank you. I feel very validated now. All right, Mark, let's get out of the new releases. Time for a regular segment on our show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Today, we are going to, this is an exercise in silliness. We are going to try to name all of the Marvel movies
in release.
In release order.
Yeah.
So just as before, when we did not look up what the names of the Planet of the Apes movies were,
much to everyone's chagrin.
I don't know. I think everyone loved it. Okay, so Marvel movies. This is easy. Starts with Iron Man.
Yes.
And then I believe Hulk comes.
Yeah,
next.
the Incredible Hulk is second, which incredibly, I think, was released the same year as Iron Man was.
Yes.
I think it was all 2008.
Now, so this is where I do need to get hung up a second. Is it the Incredible Hulk or is it just Hulk?
Hulk was the Ang Lee one from like 2003.
That's Eric Bana. Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Followed by
Iron Man 2.
Oh, really? There was okay.
Iron Man 2 comes really early in the run, and so it's one of those where it's like shocking that it is a straight up sequel so early.
Which I guess makes sense because that's where they laid a lot of the groundwork for the Avengers Initiative. And it's where we meet Black Widow and everything. And so it makes sense then that movie would come before Thor, which was next.
Right. So Thor is next. We got that. We meet Thor. We meet Loki.
Captain America.
Oh, we also meet Hawkeye in there.
Oh, that's right.
He's like guarding the hammer or something.
Yeah, there's this really weird scene where he's like up on a gurney or something.
And then like Maria Hill or someone is like, stand down. And he's like, all right, I got a shot. I don't know. What was that impression? Was that my Jeremy Renner?
Not bad.
I got a shot.
Not bad.
I got a clear shot at him. And then it is Captain America, the first Avenger. And then the Avengers.
That is crazy.
Yeah. It is. And at this point.
That was the entirety of Phase 1.
That was the entirety of Phase 1.
Nuts.
Yeah, it's like 6 movies. And I mean, let's just quickly recall what it was like as we were leading into Avengers. And we're like, surely this is going to be a dumpster fire that no one is going to be interested in. No one will be able to hold the ideas of Thor, Captain America, and Iron Man in their heads at the same time.
Especially because Thor, like, other than Iron Man and Iron Man 2, none, like, all the other movies did respectably.
Respectably.
Yes.
Yes.
But they did not set the world on fire.
No, so certainly not in the way that Iron Man did.
Or the Avengers did. So there has to have been tons of people who went into the Avengers without having seen, like, the other movies.
Yeah, totally. Well, and yes. Correct. I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with a lot of the Avengers' success has to do with Joss Whedon, and that like he just got to make a Joss Whedon movie.
Yeah, for sure.
With Avengers characters in it,
and they're all likable.
Yeah,
and that's where we're introduced to, I guess, really to Hawkeye.
Yeah, Hawkeye and Black Widow. That's where they really get like a chance to shine. What is the next movie after Avengers?
I think that it's Thor: Dark World.
I think it's Iron Man 3.
You're right. It is Iron Man 3.
Because so much of it has to do with Tony
the
Stark's
aftermath.
Like, yeah,
you're 100% right. It is Iron Man 3.
His like PTSD, and then I think it's Thor: The Dark World, and then Captain America:
Winter
Soldier.
Yeah, that's so weird that it was. So, those phases were basically just like those 3 characters.
Yeah. It's really weird, and I also I remember being excited by Avengers, and then like seeing Iron Man 3 and being like, oh, that's fine, and then seeing Thor with you at
that's right at like midnight
at the dome,
in 3D. Oh man!
And I fell asleep during it, and because that's what happens, and sort of being like, okay, this is whatever these movies are disposable, and maybe they are. But it's when we saw
Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier was so good.
Blew me away. And yeah, I love that thing. But what happens next? What happens after Winter Soldier? Because Guardians has to show up in here somewhere.
Right. Guardians.
And I think Guardians is before Age of Ultron.
Uh-huh.
So I think it's Guardians next.
And then Age of Ultron?
Then Age of Ultron and then Ant-Man.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Because Ant-Man was right after Age of Ultron. And again, like it's Guardians is like another high point. And then like Age of Ultron kind of there's like a little bit of a decline. And then Ant-Man is fine, like no shade at Ant-Man, but it's not like a super hype movie. But this is where is Doctor Strange in here somewhere?
No, Doctor Strange was later. Ooh, we're gonna have to do it. We're gonna have to do a part 2. We're gonna have to do a part 2.
To be continued. Brutal. Okay, so we were accompanied today by the ensemble at the Musical Instrument Museum in Phoenix. All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
I feel so bad for somebody who knows the answer, who like just knows the order. To hear us like struggle through that must be infuriating.
Yeah, we did kind of go through it like we were on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and Slumdog Millionaire. I know this one because blah blah blah.
All right. Well, okay. So we've talked on this show before about how Game Freak developed Pokemon games have effectively been annualized at this point.
Yeah.
You just expect a new Pokemon game every year, even if it feels like they shouldn't be ready for one, right? Like, let's
go. Like the
changing
of the seasons, yes.
Yes, exactly. But in an interview with VG247, Pokemon producer Junichi Masuda revealed that it's not like an intentional timeline necessarily. He says, quote, "Each time we go into making a new game and start a new project, we look at what exactly we want to create. And then from there we decide the most appropriate timing to release it depending on various factors. What's important to Game Freak is to have as many people to come in contact and play Pokemon as possible."
Sure. So
I have
do you
believe
Yeah,
this.
I was going to say, do you believe that?
I mean, I think from thinking about Game Freak as a company, right? Like they develop one of the biggest video game franchises in the world.
Yeah.
But as far as like large behemoth titans of industry, they're not really. They, their revenue is in the hundreds of millions of dollars a year, which, that's nothing to sneeze at, but comparatively is not enormous. They basically have Pokemon and a few other side projects that they dabble with, that they experiment with. But I kind of think from a Game Freak like perspective, they have to put out a Pokemon game a year. I think they would have to really plan to not.
Yeah, this note about that it is important to them to get as many people to come into contact and play Pokemon as possible means that like where the rest of the Pokemon company is interested in putting out like toys and anime and stuff, that their goal is like get as many people to play, which means keep making the games
and also like being really strategic about like we see a similar thing with the Dragon Quest series, where Square Enix wants to put it on the console that has the biggest user base.
Yeah.
And in, the case of 11, because the PS4, was doing fine, but wasn't that big. And in Japan, and the 3DS was big, but not as big as the DS. They like split the difference and they put it on both.
Right.
Yeah. And then, Game Freak has always waited.
Yeah.
They put them on the handhelds for so long that now their hands have kind of been forced and they're putting it on consoles.
Yeah. Well, and just to like kind of wrap up what you were talking about with Square Enix, like the Dragon Quest games that are on Nintendo platforms right now are published by Nintendo. So like they need that little extra push, or at least
in the West.
In the West, yeah. Mm-hmm. Or everywhere for 11, right?
No. It's published by Square Enix in Japan.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in the States, both Dragon Quest 11 and Builders 1 and 2 are all published by Nintendo, and not by Square. So yeah, it's there is a certain like conservatism about some of these like Japanese publishing practices, and I think that Game Freak and the Pokemon Company are no exception to that.
In the same interview, Masuda also was asked about the lack of national Pokedex.
Of course he was. Why would he not be?
And, the interviewer wanted to know about the company's internal reaction to the fan response. And he explained that Game Freak's goal is to deliver, quote, the most interesting game possible and make a more enjoyable, richer experience for the fans, and giving people a greater attachment to the Pokemon that are in the game.
Which, look, this is exactly the answer that I want to hear, right? Of like, we built a game around the Pokemon that are in this game, and like if there were more, I guess that just means that there would be more. It doesn't mean that is like there's a point where it becomes subtraction by addition, that you are putting more Pokemon in that are taking away from the vision of the game.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I do get the perspective that, hey, Pokemon as a series has always been about like, this is your crew.
Yeah.
And you've been able to take them through so many games. And so when they're like, oh, we want you to focus on these Pokemon, like the Pokemon that were built for this game, I 100% get that. And I think that makes a ton of sense. And for me, as somebody who doesn't have a ton of legacy Pokemon, like I'm all for that. Like I'm fine having each Pokemon game be a new experience, and I'm going to gather different Pokedex every time. But for somebody who has like really invested themselves in the Pokemon ecosystem, I like understand the perspective that it feels like, hey, but I've been this huge fan for so long. You told me this is what I should be doing, and now like I'm not able to carry any of that work forward. Like I get why that would be frustrating.
But again, just not necessarily.
Or
like,
at least not.
There's a pretty,
for sure.
Like if there's a Pikachu that you've been carrying forward forever, like guess what? Pikachu's going to be in the game.
Right. But also not just that. I mean, I don't think you can bring Pokemon into like I don't think you can bring your Pokemon into Sword and Shield right now.
Because it's not compatible with
like home or anything. Like I don't know how you would
transfer
transfer that.
Home doesn't really exist yet.
Right.
Yeah.
But
that is how.
Yeah, and also I guess if you're like really attached to that Keyring Pokemon and he doesn't show up in, you know, like if your favorites don't make it, then that's kind of sucks a little bit. All that being said, I completely understand why it is how it is. He also went on to mention Pokemon Home again, saying that will be a place to, quote, enjoy a different way of playing with your Pokemon from previous games.
Yeah, so I wanted to bring this up just because I don't think we really know a whole lot about what Pokemon Home is going to be, other than like I think it's just kind of just been speculated on that like you would go and like maybe it's a place where you can like pet your Pokemon,
right?
or,
Or that
take
it
pictures with them or something.
basically replaces Pokemon Bank. But I do think that it's telling that it's not called Pokemon Bank. It's like a new thing.
Yes, and the fact that Masuda says that it's a different way to of playing with your Pokemon, I think that there may be more. I mean, it could be that Pokemon Home is the place where like you could battle. I mean, like that might be part of it. We just don't really know at this point. But I think like the possibilities are endless, and Pokemon Home seems like the kind of thing that could be updated. Like Pokemon Go didn't have like peer-to-peer battling forever, and now it does. So I think there's just I don't know. Pokemon Home is an exciting thing that I think we need to pay a little bit more attention to as we get closer to it coming out, whenever that is.
Last week, IGN Japan hosted a live stream event at a bar with developers Suda51 from No More Heroes fame and Swery from Deadly Premonition fame. The two developers were saying that they've wanted to work together for a while, but evidently, every time they get together to discuss ideas, they get too drunk to remember what they had come up with.
So this is their solution: is well, let's just hang out and drink still, but have IGN live stream it.
So we have a record.
So there's a record, yes.
I mean, so clearly nothing in the story sounds like it's any official announcement or anything.
Yeah, I mean, this thing to me mostly sounds like these two developers wanted to host a live stream, get drunk, and just like talk, just wax about video games, right? Under the guise of like, oh yeah, we're working on something together. It's like, no, they're just getting together and drinking, right?
That's what it seems like. They're positing that they're working on a horror game of some type, not like true horror. Swery says a lingering sense of creepiness. A game tentatively called Hotel Barcelona, with different rooms in the hotel representing different characters' perspectives or different dimensions. They're making this up as they go along, so
right,
who knows? They said this part is really funny to me.
Yeah,
they said that Devolver Digital gave them a budget of $1 million, but Devolver was quick to tweet that it was the first that they'd heard of it.
So there you go. Devolver Digital either is or is not giving these two guys $1 million to make a game that may or may not be called Hotel Barcelona, which may or may not take place in Barcelona in a hotel where the different rooms are different perspectives or different dimensions.
Now, right. Devolver Digital is they do a lot of like cheeky marketing, a lot of like very tongue-in-cheek things. I think they're the company that every year at E3 they have their like pre-recorded live stream that's like ultra violent and just like really crazy. So it would not surprise me if this, spontaneous live stream was all just kind of a planned thing that Devolver Digital had set up, and they are funding this game. It's just a very smart way to get people talking. We're talking about it.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, or if Devolver like saw it happening and was like, yeah, we got $1 million.
Yeah,
we got $1 million. We could do that.
At EGX over the weekend, Capcom's Yoshinori Ono was asked some questions on a Street Fighter panel that are relevant to our interests here on NCS.
Mark, are you familiar with the personality of Ono-san?
Not really.
He is a delight. He is like the face of Street Fighter on the Capcom side, and he always travels with a little Blanca toy, like a little plastic Blanca action figure, and takes pictures with it everywhere. And he's just like a cheery, energetic, like how like some of like the Japanese developers have this like very like serious, like deathly serious facade. And Yoshinori Ono is like the exact opposite of that. He is giggly. He is ebullient. He is a fun time boy.
You can kind of tell from some of like the quotes that he was giving in this interview. So he talks about Blanca, Ono's favorite Street Fighter character, like you brought up. Blanca was evidently never a subject of conversation when discussing what Street Fighter content could be in Smash Brothers.
Hilarious.
He says, quote, "The word Blanca never came up while we discussed who to put in Smash, so either Sakurai has never heard of Blanca or he hates him."
Oh man. Which do you think it is?
I'm guessing he hates him because I think he's heard of him before.
I mean, everyone who knows who Blanca is.
On the subject of whether Street Fighter 4 or 5 will come to Switch, Ono said that would require more involvement from Nintendo. Quote, "They're the ones you really need to talk to, not me. Even with our previous Nintendo title, Ultra Street Fighter 2, Nintendo came to us and said, we want to do something with Street Fighter 2 because it's been 25 years since it came out on previous Nintendo consoles."
Which is a good, talk to those guys. And that makes, again, we were just talking about Square Enix having games published by Nintendo on their platform. Do you think that would be like, I don't know exactly how well Ultra Street Fighter sold, but like, do you feel like there is a Street Fighter, like a lack of Street Fighter on the system, or
I think there's
okay
I think there's a lack of modern Street Fighter.
Yeah,
for sure. Right, you have lots of, if you want retro, especially arcade versions of Street Fighter, you have a ton of options.
Yeah,
the part I think is interesting is that if what he's saying is true and not to be taken tongue in cheek, I think it's interesting that Nintendo is the one who came to Capcom.
Yeah.
Because when Ultra Street Fighter 2 came out at Switch launch, or really close to Switch launch.
Yeah, really close.
Right? Like, we were all dunking on it because it was $40 for...
It's too much for what it
like
is.
Street Fighter 2 and everything. And obviously a lot of that is on Capcom. But it's interesting from the perspective that Nintendo came to them and were like, hey, we would love you to put Street Fighter 2 on the system. So they were like, okay. And then I guess we can do this weird first-person Hadouken shooter thing.
I mean, the thing that's so frustrating about that is in the Street Fighter 4 engine. Like,
right.
It's using the graphics of Street Fighter 4, so like, it can work on there. I wonder if some of it too just comes down to the online infrastructure and like wanting to know that it is going to be functioning the way an online fighting game needs to work. Because like, I know that's a problem with Smash, but like, people play Mortal Kombat. So I don't know. It seems like maybe it's just like a weird fit and maybe an unnecessary.
I think there's also just kind of like a ceiling on one, like how many resources Capcom puts into these like modern Street Fighter fighting games.
Mm-hmm.
Because there seems to just be Street Fighter 4 was a real, I feel like, resurgence for Street Fighter. Everybody was talking about it again, but I feel like 5 has a dedicated community, but obviously not like never had the same sort of buzz around it.
Yeah, well, and 5, is console exclusive to PlayStation, so like that was obviously they have a partnership there. Maybe that's just one of the things about Street Fighter is that it is a niche enough product that you need to have like an active partner in it to make it financially viable. So yeah, I guess it would make sense that you can get Street Fighter on your platform. You just kind of gotta go be like a partner with them.
The Outer Worlds has been released on all other platforms last week, and over the weekend we got a tiny bit more information about when we can expect the Switch version of the game.
So small.
Yeah. Per a press release from Private Divisions, the Virtuos developed port will be coming sometime in 2020.
So don't expect it now in the last couple days of October. No time in November, and not in December.
It's interesting that because the Outer Worlds port for Switch was announced kind of late and was a surprise. It was kind of a surprise to the Obsidian people too, like the developers. They were saying, as they were doing press for the game, they were asked about the Switch version, and they were saying that Virtuos brought it to them as like a proof of concept. Like they didn't think it was possible to run the game on the Switch. Like they didn't have the Switch in mind. So it makes sense. Now it all kind of makes sense that like, that it's coming later than everything else, because it seems like it was never in their original plans. They didn't expect it was going to be able to happen. And Virtuos was just kind of like, here's something we can do if you're interested.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting because like right now we are very much in the Outer Worlds moment where people are talking about it, and it is like, the hotness of right now. And I wonder if when we get to, February or whatever of next year, maybe later, that it'll still be something that people want to dig into.
I think it definitely, I think Doom Eternal, its sales will be hurt by coming later. than if it launched day and date. But I do think there are people who portability is,
king.
Yeah, like it's a killer feature. And so if you can make a successful port that runs well enough in portable mode, like people will either double dip or they'll wait. It may not be as large of an audience if it launched day one, but I do think that there's, because, we've seen a lot of these later ports, and I've never heard anything about them being outright bombs, right? Or like unsuccessful. So,
although we did talk about Overwatch the other day.
Right, that's right.
Right.
That Overwatch may have completely underperformed. That is very possible. It also launched at like the worst possible time for Blizzard.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. BlizzCon is this weekend, right?
I think so.
Oh, man.
And finally, the newest in-game event for Dragalia Lost, Nintendo's mobile RPG, which when we played it, we thought was really super fun and cute.
Mm-hmm. We had a good time with it.
They're doing a Mega Man themed event.
Mega Man is coming to Dragalia Lost.
And here's the thing. It doesn't require a summoning circle to get Mega Man.
Yeah.
Anyone who logs in and participates in the event starting October 31st will have access to the new adventure, Mega Man, and some Mega Man items, which is awesome.
That's super cool. It's and I like that, we'd read a story a couple weeks ago, maybe months ago at this point, about Dragalia Lost, about them like scaling back some of the difficulty in getting the like rarer items and rarer characters and stuff. And now here's an example where they're just like, no, if you play the thing, you get Mega Man. Which, hey, I appreciate, but also, isn't it crazy to have Mega Man in this game?
It does seem crazy to have Mega Man in this game.
It's such a, like, swords and sorcery kind of game, and then, like, this is a little robot dude with a gun on his arm. All right, Mark, let's get out of the news. Okay, that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts if you haven't already. And if you like this episode, you can share it on Facebook or on Twitter. We appreciate when you do that kind of stuff. On Twitter, I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at Nin Cart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying thank you for listening.
Hey, Rachel, Oscar.
Yeah, Claire?
Do you love Disney movies?
Uh-huh.
Have you seen them all?
Not all of them.
What do you guys think if we watch them all in chronological order and then talk about them?
Ooh. Oh, and what if we can talk about it with some of our favorite friends?
I love that.
Yeah, what if we do it inside the Disney Vault?
You know, that's the name of our podcast, Inside the Disney Vault on Campfire Media.
Yeah, check us out on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to yours.
That's Inside the Disney Vault.
Let's go!
Woo!
Campfire.